Welcome to my series on MX Excel Basic to Advanced, curated for medical teachers. In this lecture, I'm going to talk about the if command. The if command is a logical command and has a format equals if. Then we test a condition. If the condition is true, the computer will return the value which you've assigned it to return. In case the condition is not true, then it will return the other value. So the format is equals if within brackets what's the condition, what to do in case the condition is true, what to do in case the condition is not true. For example, if we want to compare a number in the cell A2 and we want to check whether the number is greater than 5. In case the number is greater than 5, we need a return we need the computer to show a value of 1. In case the number is not greater than 5, we need the value 2. So the command will be equals if A2 is greater than 5. A2 is the cell reference in the Excel sheet. If A2 is greater than 5, this is my condition. Then what to do in case it is true, it will return me a value 1. And in case it is not true, what to do? It will return me a value 2. Remember, if the value is 5, 5 is not greater than 5, so it will still return me a value of 2. So we should be very careful when we put our conditions. The second thing is, as long as you're dealing with numbers, it becomes easy. But supposing I want the output as a text, like pass or fail. If the condition is true, I should get a response of pass, and if the condition is not true, I should get a response of fail. To differentiate it as a text, we need to put quotes in front of the text. So the condition will be equals A2 greater than 5, comma, then put a quotes and write pass and close the quotes. Put a comma. Now we'll have to give the third component, what to do in case the condition is not true. There we want a response of fail. So again we put fail within double quotes. So to take a live example, I'm sharing an Excel sheet with all of you. This contains the marks of students in the first MBBS subject. This is a dummy mark sheet, not related to our students. But for the purpose of understanding, let's assume that I want to know who are the students who have failed in anatomy theory. Anatomy theory is in this cell, which is C2. And I want the response to come here in I2, whether the student is pass or fail. So the formula I'm going to use is, I'll go to the I2 cell, then I'll put the formula equals if, then I have to write the condition. So I open the brackets. The condition is if C2 is greater than 40. If C2 is greater than 40, then I put a comma and I say, okay, if C2 is greater than 40, I want a response of 1. And if C2 is less than 40, I want a response of 0. So this will be the formula equals if within brackets C2 greater than 40, comma 1, comma 0. When I press enter, I will get the value 0 because C2's value is 37, which is definitely less than 40. Now this we discussed with numbers. If I want the response to come as pass or fail, I can write the equation if within brackets C2 less than 40. If C2 is less than 40, I need a response of fail. But here, since it's a text, I have to put quotes in front of it. Then I put comma. If the C2 is 40 or more than 40, then the student is pass. So in the third column, I put quotes, write pass, and then close the bracket. In this case, when I press enter, I get the value fail. So this is how you can use logical operations to check up whether the student is passed or failed. For homework, I have put this command if C2 is less than 45, fail, otherwise pass. But if I were to write the formula in another way, if C2 is greater than 40, what should be in X and what should be Y? Please give it to me in the comments. Let's have a quick practical demonstration of this. So this is the Excel sheet I was talking about. Here I want to check out whether this value is whether the student has passed or failed in anatomy theory. So I put the equation equals if, open the brackets. Now when I open the brackets, you can see here that it's giving me the components of the function. If, first is the logical test, value if true, value if false. So here my condition is if C2, the cell gets highlighted, C2 cell gets highlighted, is less than 40, I want 0 to say that the student has failed. And if the value is 40 or above, I want the value of 1. So now when I close the bracket and press enter, what am I expecting to get? Correct. You get the value 0. If I enter the value of 45, the answer I should get would be 1. Important to note that if I put the value 40, then also I'll get the value 1, because my condition is very clear. My condition says if C2 is less than 40, 40 is not less than 40, so this first condition will become false. So I'll take the second condition and give me the value of 1. The second thing which we talked about was if I want a text report to come as pass or fail. So there the formula will slightly change, where we'll say equals if, open the brackets, the condition remains the same. Here we are going to the C3, we are checking the next student, so that C3 is less than 40. That was my criteria. I want to know if the C3 is less than 40, then the student is fail, and fail is a text. Whenever we use a text, we need to use quotes. So put quotes, right, fail, quotes. This is what it will do when the condition is true. Put a comma, and now we have to enter the value in case the condition is false. In case the student's value is not less than 40, then the student is pass. So we're going to write pass over here, and pass, as I said, is going to be in quotes. So when you press enter, you will get the value pass. Now remember, this formula is very dynamic and responsive to any changes in the cell. If I make this value 34, it will reflect the value as fail. So this is the basic if command. What we talked now was an if command where we checked a numerical field and we wanted to see whether that value was greater than, less than, equal to whatever mathematical functions that we had. Supposing we are looking at evaluating a text field and then taking a call. For example, this is where we got the students pass or fail. If I have another column to check, and the check column will decide if the answer is fail, it should say yeah, no. If the student is pass, it should say yes. So now I'm using a condition on a text field, right? So if the value of I, the condition, the cell which I'm looking for the value is I, if the value of I2 equals fail, in the check column, I want the value yes. Otherwise, I want it as no. Again, whenever we use any text in a formula, it has to be preceded with the quotes. So the formula change equals if I2 equals, and here we are using in quotes fail. The response also we want is a text field. So there again we are going to use quotes. If the condition is true, give me yes, otherwise give me no. This is how you can apply a condition to even text field. Like this is why we are saying that if the value is fail, it gives me a value. If I2 equals quotes fail, then give me a response yes, otherwise give me a response no. In this case, the value is fail, so it will give me a response of yes. Here the value is pass, so the formula I get, so the response I get is no. Let's have a look at this. Equals if, within brackets, I2 equals quotes fail. I want a response yes. So for that, I should put within quotes yes. And in case the condition is not true, I need a response as no. No is also text, so that should also come with quotes. And if you put it, you will get the value yes. So this is how you can use logical commands even to check a logical operation on text. Now, we can increase the complexity further by adding two more keywords, that's and or. When we use if along with and, the criteria changes slightly. The normal condition is if, what is the condition to be tested, what to do if true, what to do if not true. When I use the and command, I'm saying if, then I use the word and I set multiple criterias. Here I'm just testing one condition. In this, I'm checking multiple conditions. It will evaluate criteria 1, criteria 2, criteria 3, will evaluate all the criterias. And only if all the three criterias are true, will it return me a value of this true. Otherwise, even if one criteria doesn't match, it will return a response of false. Like, for example, let's delete all these. I want to know how many students have passed anatomy theory and biochemistry theory. So the condition will be equals if I'm passing two conditions, so I need to put and. So I'll start off with and within brackets. My first condition is that the anatomy theory should be greater than 40. Should be greater than 40, and the biochemistry theory should be greater than 40. So I'm putting two conditions. If anatomy theory is greater than 40 and biochemistry theory is greater than 40, so I put the two conditions. Now I'm closing the brackets. This bracket is for the condition. After that, we have to give what to do if both the conditions are true. It should respond as yes, otherwise it should respond as no. So what do you think is going to happen over here? If C2 is greater than 40 and E2 is greater than 40, I need a response of yes, otherwise no. What do you think we are going to get the response? No. Why? Because C2 is not greater than 40. It is 40, it is not greater than 40. So one condition has failed, as a result of which it is telling me no. However, if I change this to 45, it'll give me the value of yes, because both the conditions have been successful. The C2 was also greater than 40 and E2 was also greater than 40. Since both the conditions are true, it returns me a value yes. Similarly, we can use an or condition along with the if. The or condition checks up if any of the conditions is true, it is going to give me a value yes, or it will give me a value no. For example, if I want to know whether the student has passed in anatomy or biochemistry, so I say equals if, here I write the command or, because now I'm using using an operation or. After that, I have to give the criteria. The criteria say this, that is anatomy theory greater than 40 or biochemistry theory greater than 40. So I've given the two criteria. I can give a third criteria also, where I say physiology theory greater than 40. So I'm checking up three conditions: whether the anatomy theory was greater than 40, or the biochemistry theory was greater than 40, or the physiology theory was greater than 40. So I'm using any of these three conditions. If the student has passed any theory subject, I need to get a response yes. Otherwise, I need a response no. So what do you think is going to be the answer in this situation? Either C2, either C4 greater than 40, or E4 greater than 40, or G4 greater than 40. What is the response you were expecting? Yes, because one of the criteria, that is E4 is greater than 40, and here the operator I'm using is AND. So is OR, because one of the conditions are met in response 1. So the homework for you is, in the Excel sheet provided, identify all the students who have failed, identify students who have failed in all the theory subjects. Identify students who have passed all the subjects, a clear pass. Identify students who have failed in at least one theory subject, right? Identify students who have failed in all the theory subjects. Here you're going to use an if command with an AND. Identify students who have passed all the subjects. Here again, you're going to be using an if command along with AND. Identify students who have failed in at least one theory subject. This is different from the first condition because you're going to use the logical operation if along with or. Thoughts. Identify the number of heads in which a student has failed. Now, I want to know how many subjects the student has failed. Did he fail only in anatomy theory? Did he fail in anatomy theory and practicals? Did he fail in 3 subjects? Did he fail in 4 subjects? All of this, we are getting to know whether the student has passed or failed. It doesn't tell us in how many subjects he's passed or how many subjects he's failed. So if you want to find out the number of subjects in which a student has failed, then use a small trick. Use to check if a student has passed or failed a subject. Here we are going to use the if command. In the response, we used fail or pass. Instead of assign 1 for fail and assign 0 for pass. Right? Copy this formula for all the heads. So the student, if he has failed a subject, will get you a score of 1. If the student has passed it as a subject, the score will be 0. After you copy this formula 6 times for all the 6 subjects, add the result. Because they are numbers, any subject the student has failed will give you a response of 1. So if you add the subjects together, you'll get to know the net number of subjects that the student has failed. So this is HOTS. Try it, and if you have a problem, we can get back onto it. Thank you for attending my class.